The Bible says that Eve is the mother of all living, and Adam called her name Eve because she was the mother of all living. And what I want to tell you today is that this happened after they had sinned in the Garden of Eden, but before chapter 4. Chapter 3 actually precedes chapter 4, which means when he said that she was the mother of all living, it was before she had conceived, the Bible says, when Adam knew his wife Eve, and she conceived and bore Cain and said, I have acquired a man from the Lord. Now, Adam had called her the mother of all things before she had ever given birth to anybody or anything had proceeded forth from her body. So we realize that when he's coming talking about motherhood, the motherhood is not based on the basis of your heredity, but the motherhood is based upon a position that God has established and given you into the life of others to bring them life. The name Eve means life giver. The word Eve means life giver. So he called her name Eve because she was the mother of all living, which means there had not been any other living human beings on the face of the planet. But at this time, there were cattle and there were creeping things and there were things that God had gave them dominion over. And Adam began to recognize something regarding this person who he had formerly named woman. Now, God had gave Adam the authority to name everything that moved upon earth. The Bible said that whatever he called something, that was what it was called. And when God created woman, he brought her to Adam, and he placed her in Adam's midst. And Adam said, she shall be called woman because she came out of man. The word man being in the Hebrew, the word Adam. She came out of Adam, she came out of man, so she shall be called woman. But now he begins to rename her something Eve because he says, you know what? Even though we're in this situation that brought death into the world, you're going to be the mother of all things living. Now, we know a little bit about Adam and Eve. We know from chapter 2 when we had discussed before that when God created man and he had caused them to till the ground. The Bible says, verse 4, chapter 2, that this is the history of the heaven and earth when they were created in the day which the Lord made heaven and earth. Before he planted the field, and herb had grown in the field. The Lord had not caused it to rain yet on earth, for there was no man to till the ground. In verse 7, and then God formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And then he plants him, the Bible says, he planted a garden eastward in Eden, and he put the man there who he had formed. Now, skipping down to verse 15. And the Lord took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden and kept it. And the Lord commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which is in the midst of the garden, you shall not eat, or you shall surely die. And the Lord said, God is not good for the man to be alone, but I will make a helper comparable to him. So we have discussed before in other messages how when God gave the command to not touch the tree, it was before Eve was created. When God gave the command to not touch the tree, it was before Eve was created. So in chapter 3, when the serpent who's crafty comes to Eve, and he says to Eve, as God indeed said, verse 1, you may not eat of every tree of the garden. Eve says to the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but the tree in the midst of the garden, the fruit, we shall not eat it, nor shall we touch it, unless you die. Now, God had not spoken that to her directly. She had only learned that through Adam. And we had discussed before that the reason why when Eve partakes of the fruit, nothing happens, is because the commandment was not given to Eve. The commandment was given to who? To Adam. The commandment was given to Adam that the day he eats of it, he shall surely die. And that it wasn't until he ate of it that anything happened. The verse says, Bible says this. The serpent says to the woman in verse 4, though you will not die, for God knows in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be open and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. And the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and it was pleasant for the eyes, and the tree desired to make one wise. He took of his fruit, she took of his fruit, and she ate it. And she gave it to her husband with her, and he ate. That term with her means he was what? With her. With her means what? She ate, she gave to her husband with her. That means her husband was with her the entire time. So the serpent approaches Adam and Eve and does not speak to Adam, but begins to speak to Eve. But Eve does not have the understanding of the tree, and that because she says, we can't eat of the tree, nor can we touch the tree, because even if we touch the tree, we're going to die. But then she touches the tree and nothing happens. So she looks at the tree and she said, you know what? If the food look good, I want to be wise, and it's desired to my stomach. And she takes it and she eats, but nothing happens. She eats of the tree, which she was told by Adam, if she eats it or touches it, she will die, but she doesn't die. So she gives it to her husband who's with her, which means Adam was there watching the entire time, watching her to see if she was going to drop dead. And you know, you ever been to a spot where you want to see if someone else can get away with it first, when you want to do something, but you're a little bit nervous about doing that thing? And you know, you ever had a friend with you and say the one to steal from the store, and you kind of, the candy bars there, and we didn't have all these Skittles when I was a kid. We had Now-Laters. Right. We didn't have Skittles, and all the Starbursts came later on, but we had the Now-Laters. We ate Red Hots, Lemon Head, and Now-Laters. So we were there, and they would say, get the Snicker bar and the Now-Laters, and your friend will want to get it, and you're like, because you'll be too scared. But the moment you saw him get away with it, you got a little bit bold and said, okay, and then you start sticking something in your pocket, take a packet of grape Now-Laters, and got to get the watermelon Now-Laters. Am I talking to somebody who know about the Now-Laters when they was a kid? Got to get the watermelon Now-Laters because, them things last good. You can take the pack, stick it in your pocket. And so when Adam saw that she ate and got away with it, he became emboldened. And he thought he can get away with it too. He came a little bold because he thought he can get away with it also because she got away. She ate of it and everything, and nothing happened. But the Bible says she gave it to her husband with him, and then, verse 7, the eyes of both of them were open, and they knew they were naked. And so fig leaves together to make themselves covering. So the first thing that happened when Adam tastes of it is a spirit of fear comes upon them. Their eyes were open and they knew they were naked. And they got ashamed of it. A spirit of fear came upon him for what he did. Which tells me why he hid, because the spirit of fear was upon Adam because he did something that God told him not to do. Remember this, Eve was deceived, Adam was disobedient. Eve, the mother of all living, she was tricked and she was deceived. But because she was deceived, nothing happened. See, sometimes the enemy will deceive you and God will cover you with grace and mercy because you were deceived. But if you're disobedient, something's going and bound to happen. Something is bound to happen because you're just disobedient. You do know better. You know where you belong, you know where you're supposed to be, and you know what God is saying to you about your life, and you know better. And so something has got to happen to cause you to open your eyes and cause you to see that your disobedience is getting you nowhere.